Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We are moving on with our budget series. We're going to talk about budget 1 mana counter spells. So these are very useful, obviously, because people don't expect you to have a 1 mana counter spell. First of all, what is a counter spell? Counter spells stop your opponent's spells before they resolve. This still counts as something being cast. So if they have something like a cast trigger, that still happens. This does not allow the permanent to have any ETB or other effect on play. So if they have like a creature that does something when it comes into the battlefield, if you counter it, that does not happen. Cast triggers do happen, that does not happen. So that's kind of something that's a little bit tricky, I think. But yeah, for instance, like a Cascade. Cascade is a cast trigger, so you still get that. Counter spells, you got to be aware of what they're doing. For like my example of Cascade, you need a Cascade that actually, or you need a counter spell that actually like stops abilities, not counters the spell, right? The ability, once the spell is cast, the ability and the spell are separate. Even though the card has the ability, it sets it off already. It's not like a whole one card just gets rid of everything type of counter. Yeah. What are the limitations? So once again, my camera I gotta stop filling up the whole thing. Low mana cost spells will often catch opponents off guard. Again, most counter spells, people are worried about like 2 blue. The classic counter spell is 2 blue. So that's what they expect. If you only have 1 blue open, then they might think, hey, it's safe to do whatever. Opponents will be more hesitant to cast anything against you if they see you had a lower cast counter spell. So this is kind of one of the hidden advantages, is that once you play one of these spells, people are going to be like, oh, I have to be very careful. If this person has like 1 mana open, they might have a counter spell. So they're going to be a lot more hesitant to attack you if you even have 1 mana open. Forget about 2 mana. These are often more limited in what they can counter. So the limitations are much more extreme. Something like counter spell, any spell it can deal with, not ability. But yeah, these will be, card type is often very limited. But anyway. So very, very useful to have, and always something that will catch people off guard. Alright, and extra slow, yay! Not of this world. I actually covered this card in a previous video, but it is so good I put it in this one as well. 78 cents only, which I think is just like insanely cheap, but anyway. It is 7 mana to cast, so obviously I'm talking about 1 mana spells. This does not qualify if you pay the 7 mana. So this is a cheap spell unless used. This is not a cheap spell unless used properly. So again, you can counter any spell that targets a creature of yours, and if that creature has power 7 or higher, this is free. You cast the counter spell for free. Really insane. Especially if you've got a deck where pretty much any creature that is going to have high power is going to be a major target, right? So it's not like all of your creatures are just likely to get like Doombladed or something. Like, no, that's not true. What's likely going to be targeted is your very powerful creature. So yeah, that is very good for that, right? Ideal in a Voltron deck. If your commander is going to have very high damage, this is going to protect your commander. Equipment decks also, I think, can do a lot with this, but anyway. Blue Elemental Blast. Blah, blah, blah. Counters a red spell being cast or destroys a red card in play. So first of all, it has options. Options are always good. I'm actually working on videos about like cards that just give you options. Usually the options are not as good. Again, this has to counter red, so that is very much a limitation. but it can be a red spell or a red card. Here it says, because it's a very old card, it just says card. Now it would say permanent, right? Something on the battlefield you can destroy for 1 mana. Whew. I mean, yeah, red is a major limitation, but there's a lot of ways around that as well. So yeah, 54 cents. So cheap, so cheap. I think I have 2 of these, so I kind of wish that wasn't that cheap, but whatever. And Stern Scoldings. This is a newer one that came out in the Lord of the Rings set. It still says not of this world on top. It's Stern Scolding. Anyway, the value is quickly rising on this one. It is 123 now. Even I think a month ago it was under $1. So it's going up very fast. Counters only creatures, so there's one downside, and only creatures with power 2 or less. No, sorry, power or toughness 2 or less. So that's actually quite a bit of flexibility. Like anything under a 3/3, you can counter it, right? A lot of creatures that give a lot of function will have lower attack power or lower toughness. So yeah, this is something you will be able to use in the game, definitely. If it goes in your deck, you're going to have an opportunity to use it. So it's really about having that 1 mana open. But anyway, 123, only 123 right now, which is quite good. And has Gandalf, so yeah. Annul. Only use against artifacts or enchantments, again, depending on what format you're playing. If you're playing Commander, there's going to be a lot of artifacts and enchantments in every single game, right? Particularly, I think early game, if someone's trying to get their ramp out, you know, like if they're going to cast Soul Ring, you only need the 1 blue mana. So if you've had your turn, you got 1 blue mana down, they're going to do their Soul Ring and maybe Soul Ring into something else. They can kind of chain a whole bunch of ramp off on turn 1, and you can just stop it dead in its tracks, right? So instead of going, tap Soul Ring to, tap cast Soul Ring, tap Soul Ring to cast Arcane Signet. If they tap and cast Soul Ring and you counter that, their whole ramp thing is just done, right? It's not only cost them the extra mana that turn, and in the future, it is just going to stop them from being able to like have turn 4 mana on turn, or turn 5 mana on turn 2. So yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And later in the game, I think countering enchantments kind of becomes more important. Like, again, we have that as the game goes on thing. I think artifacts are very important, enchantments are less common. And then, because enchantments are often, or at least good enchantments are a bit higher casting cost. And then throughout the game, it slowly kind of like shifts, I think. So artifacts are always important, but enchantments are going to do a lot more work late game. So if, all I'm saying is that this is always going to be able to do something that you like, and it's 7 cents. 7 cents for a 1 mana counterspell. Absolutely insane. If you have this in a deck, it will get used. That's for damn sure. But anyway. And Ceremonious Rejection. So only counters colorless. So once again, artifacts. Most artifacts are colorless. So their ramp, is you're going to be able to counter that. All kinds of other things you will have a counter for. So also decks that use colorless are a lot more common with the recent, like all the Eldrazi kind of decks. This is like just a monster for those decks. That's counter like anything in the deck, really. So I think counter colorless sounds pretty lackluster, but it's actually pretty amazing. Yeah, if you can spend 1 blue mana to stop someone else from getting like 1 blue mana against, again, a Soul Ring, for instance, that's already, they would have gotten twice as much mana that turn and every turn after, right? It's not, if you're countering a mana rock, I think it feels kind of lame, but in reality, it has so much impact on the game. Like if you tax someone for 1 every turn, that's the same as like exiling or countering their Arcane Signet, right? It does the same thing. Or tax 2 if you get their soul ring. So anyway, 15 cents. Very, very, very cheap. 15 cents. Alright, and we are going to look at the list of all of these that I've recommended here. Not of This World, 78 cents. Again, technically 7 to cast or 0. Blue Elemental Blast. I'm really surprised this is only 54 cents still. But anyway, Stern Scolding, 123. And Rising Fast. If you're going to get this, get it very soon. Annul, 7 cents. Grossly undervalued. Oh my gosh. And then Ceremonious Rejection, 15 cents. I dug most of these out of some bulk boxes, so I'm pretty happy with all the things I found. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe. I gotta start remembering to say that regularly, and take it easy.